Good day, everybody. Rob here, WesternPacificWeather.com. Currently going on 1200 Japan Standard Time, or 1100 Philippine time here, and right around 03 Zulu on the 16th of October 2010. Right now, all eyes are on a 15W here, or a Megi, moving off to the west-northwest right now. Otherwise, though, high pressure is dominating most of the Western Pacific. A little bit of monsoonal rains and an invest over here, 93 Whiskey, moving on to Vietnam today, just producing some rainfall in that region, with an area of low pressure extending out just to the southern coast of Honshu, out into East China Sea and into China here. But south of that, though, is a subtropical ridge right in this region right here, with 15W farther to the south. But another one of those updates, just like last night, where we're going to focus right here on this storm. All eyes are down in this region. So let's zoom in on this system. Now, over the past 6 hours, this system has actually picked up its speed quite considerably, up to 15 knots now, moving off to the west-northwest still. Max winds are still right around 90, gusting up to 110 knots. Expecting that to intensify over the next 24 hours, still more so. And actually, we can see that on this satellite imagery here. Seeing some more outflow on the northern periphery. Still have good equatorial outflow. Just the western periphery still has a little bit of dry air inflow into it. But over the next 48 hours, I would actually expect this to become more equal, and all the peripheries have an actual overall circle, semicircle on this system. So right now, though, the center convection is very organized. There is some little eye building in there, and actually you can see that in microwave imagery here. It's not the most organized eye, but there is an eye wall right in here, and on microwave imagery you can actually see this since you take away the cirrus overcast, which is shown mainly on IR imagery. So also you do have a lot of good outflow to the northern periphery, so just overall showing more organization out of this system. But good news is that there still is some dry air inflow into the western and southwestern periphery, which is still keeping this at bay. We would have a much stronger storm if this dry air wasn't here in this region. Here's the European model. It's actually, let's wait here for the initiation. Now, it's actually going to start right in this region. Now, it's going to move along to the northern periphery, just south of Iligan Point, likely making landfall, according to this model here, for re-emerging in the South China Sea and intensifying. Now, the long range out here, though, that is still long range. And actually, we're going to look at GFS here, and I'll show you what they're saying. Showing GFS, the 18Z run 0Z here on the 16th, just showing the initiation of this system. Now, if we move into the next several frames, scrolling down here, you're going to see it actually gradually deepen in, get stronger, and then moving off to the west-northwest, which is actually due to an upper-level trough, which you kind of see right in here, looking at this heights rate in these regions. You can kind of see the dipping down into the south, and that's actually what's dragging us to the north. But then as we go into the next several frames, the ridge starts to build back in. It's going to start to push it back to the west-southwest, and eventually making landfall just on the northeast periphery of Luzon. So either way, though, you're likely going to see landfall here in northern Luzon, or just off the coast in some of the Babuyan Islands. I believe that's how it's pronounced, Babuyan Islands there. And now this will happen on the 18th here. The storm will likely move over Luzon and then re-emerge in the South China Sea, still as a typhoon, and it's going to be moving relatively at a good pace, right around 10 to 15 knots at this time. That's the way it's looking. So it's actually good news, because this should actually reduce the rainfall over the island. And now moving on to a streamline analysis and away from the models, because models can sometimes be wrong. Per se, for the no gaps rate model right now is actually taking the storm towards Okinawa. And the reason why I point that out is because here, looking at streamline analysis, this is clearly wrong. We do have the troughing rate in here, which is actually taken to the north, but this whole subtropical ridge throughout this entire region is very strong, and actually lots of negative vorticity in there. And just looking at that, there is no way that this storm could make that sudden turn towards the north and then eventually northeast over all this negative vorticity and this ridging rate in here. So right now, though, looking at the background flow, which you use the streamline analysis for, and you can actually see all these arrows pointing this way and eventually back towards the west-southwest, towards northeast Luzon here. So this is a very good tool to use as forecasting purposes, and actually compare it to the other models and confirm what they're picking up on. Looking at the official warning from JME here, still showing the cone very wide, though, all the way from Taiwan down south of Manila. But the center of the area is still here, up in northeast Luzon, as already stated. And also JTWC Rayleigh on the same track here, showing the cones all the way up from Taiwan to south of Manila. And basically the same track. So this is good that all the agencies are in agreement of where the system's going to go. So if I was anywhere in this region, definitely would be getting ready and getting prepared. And on that note, we're actually going to zoom in here and showing landfall in northeast Luzon here on the 18th. And likely landfall is going to be to the north of Baguio Point here. Yesterday I was actually saying Baguio. Baguio City's over here. I don't want anybody confused when I'm talking about. Baguio Point is on this side of the island, in the eastern side, and south of Iligan Point. Now, anywhere in these regions here, from basically this region all the way down to this region in here, if you were inside that area, I would definitely be getting ready for evacuations. But still, the cone already extends from here and all the way down to here. So if I was in any of these cities, especially Manila, I'd already be getting prepared for this system. It's going to be a very strong, especially at landfall, possible super typhoon when making landfall here. And as I already stressed yesterday, I do want to point out that many of the areas up in here are deforested, so this is going to actually increase the chance for landslides throughout much of northern Luzon here, due to the fact that there isn't any roots in the ground. So this makes the soil very unstable throughout that entire area. So if you live in any area that does not have trees on the hills, and especially if you're in the valley, flash flooding is already highly likely, and that already increases the chance for mudslides. So just be very careful with the system out here, guys. And as I already stated, though, make sure we always listen to our local emergency and evacuation procedures, especially in these areas. And if the storm ends up moving just slightly farther to the north, I also want to note that this entire area up here could also be very perceptible for a storm surge as well after the system moves past the island and ends up getting still going to have typhoon strength winds. So you're going to have a reverse storm surge on this side of the island. So another thing that I do want to note up in here. And lastly, as far as the Philippines here, the outer wind bands are extending out several hundred miles. So even if the storm does end up making landfall up here in northeast Luzon, Manila, you're still going to actually have to watch this very closely, because outer rain bands can extend out very far to the southern periphery here. And in the outer rain bands, you do have those strong thunderstorms, and a chance of tornadoes is very likely. And actually, if Pagasa actually got tornado warnings in here, you would likely see boxes extending out like this, likely if the system was to make landfall up in here. Just saying, I'm not trying to panic everybody, just be aware of that possibility as well, even if you are far away from the epicenter of this storm. And back to the warning from JTWC here. I also do want to note that the storm is going to reemerge in the South China Sea, likely as a typhoon, and still a pretty strong typhoon at that. Winds likely be still right around 80 to 90 knots. So even if you live on the western side of the islands in here, you're still going to have a very strong storm after it ends up reemerging in the South China Sea here. And then after that, everywhere from Hong Kong all the way down to Hue and much of Vietnam here need to watch this storm very closely, especially Hainan here. And we already noted that this entire region right in here has already suffered severe floods this season, so this is kind of just basically a nail in the coffin as far as the flooding down here. So I know we're all concentrating on the Philippines, but this entire region still needs to watch this very closely, and it's not going to be a good scenario if this ends up re-emerging in the South China Sea, and even strengthens more so in the long range here. So all for now, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to westernpacificweather.com. If you have any questions, you can find me there at westernpacificweather.com. There's a couple links for an email there. Also, you can find me at storm2k.org. Some very good topics of discussion there, and if not available, many other people are available for answering some questions as well. So please stay safe out there. I likely have another update this evening, if not this evening, another one by tomorrow morning. But especially here in the Philippines, keep a close watch on this system and always obey your evacuations. And also check the official warning centers for warnings from Pagasa and GMA and JTWC. So stay safe out there, everybody, and I'll see you later today. Bye.